Hey, friends, welcome back. We're towards the end of our storytelling process. And remember, we've been talking about there are 5 steps to telling or presenting a story. And let me just review those. I think it would be helpful. Step number 1, do you remember? Tell the story. Tell it loudly, tell it with a bit of emotion so people can follow along and can be excited. Step number 2, ask for a volunteer, somebody to just retell what they remember. Step number 3, you, as the storyteller, lead back through the story. You retell it, but interrupt yourself with a few simple questions and get them to participate. Step number 4, search for the treasure. What does God have in this story? And how do we use those wise counselor questions to kind of dig out those treasures? And then now, step number 5, how do we apply those treasures in our lives and in the lives of those that are participating? So you may be saying, Billy, how does this work? Great question. So go back to our wise counselor questions. Maybe there's something in the story that you just realized the group had really good discussion. There was a choice that somebody made. I think of the blind Bartimaeus story. I love that one, where blind Bartimaeus is sitting beside the roadside. He realizes it's Jesus of Nazareth passing by. He cries out in a loud voice, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. And what's the response of the people? The people, be quiet. They rebuke him and tell him to stop shouting. And I love because at this point, Bartimaeus has a choice. And he could have just been, okay. He could have been quiet. He could have lowered, oh, Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. Sorry, I disturbed everyone. He could have been apologetic, but that's not what he does. Instead, it says, the story tells us, he called all the more, Son of David, have mercy on me. I love that. It's like he could have been quiet, he could have calmed down, but he doesn't. He holds on and cries out for God, for Jesus. And I love that. So let's say the group talks about that. That's a big treasure. There's something in that. In spite of opposition, blind Bartimaeus cries out for Jesus. That's a good treasure. So now take that. Let's take that as our treasure and say, hey, let's bring that over to application. And then let's just start with some basic application questions. 1, do people get oppressed today if they cry out for Jesus? Does that happen today? And that's a pretty soft question because usually the answer is something like that is, well, sure. You're trying to get people, yeah, agree with you. Then go a little bit further. Question number 2, what would it look like for people to be oppressed or kind of be quieted or to lose their voice, to not be able to speak up, particularly about religious matters? What would that look like today? So again, you're just trying to kind of move things along. Maybe somebody says, well, at school, I was at school and I just remember that several of my friends really were abused by their friends. They were made fun of and given a hard time because they were participating maybe in the prayer time before classes started. Perfect example. Good. Make it a little bit personal, more personable. Question number 3. Has this ever happened to one of us? Has this ever happened to you or maybe someone you know? And this question can go both ways. You're trying to get them to not just relate it to out there, but kind of bring it closer. Has this ever happened to me? And so you're pushing, but you want to give them an out. Maybe just if they don't feel comfortable sharing their own experience, maybe they'll share about somebody else they know. That's fine. That's fine. Question number 4, what can we learn from this story the next time this happens to us or someone we care about? And again, right away you can pick up, it's like blind Bartimaeus chose to keep crying out for Jesus. Jesus stopped and blind Bartimaeus was healed because of his persistence. What would happen if he had stopped? If he had been quiet like the people around him told him to be? So again, I'm just using that as an illustration. But again, those are our questions. Does this happen today? Whatever the main treasure is. What does it look like? Give us an example of a modern day situation. Has this ever happened to you or someone you love or care about, someone you know? What could we learn from the story that could help us the next time we're in that situation? And then kind of another question that just is always good to ask is, where's God in this story? What choices does he make? How does he care for people's hearts? And what could we learn about God from this story in the way that he would treat our hearts? We find that to be a very valuable question. So again, we're going to do another video and kind of give you a bit more demonstration of what this would look like.